Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, and maybe good evening to some of the people who have joined from different parts of the globe. Welcome to this webinar, which is organized jointly between ISV3 and GIZ India. My name is Vivek Jain, and then I'm working as an advisor in GIZ India. So today is the session on Sustainable Chemistry Club webinar, which focuses on avoiding and substituting single-use plastics. With a brief introduction, ISC3 is an international center that fosters transition to chemical and chemical-related sectors to sustainable chemistry, promoting a circular economy. And GIZ India is German development agency. We work closely on implementing projects on sustainable development. It's a federally owned enterprise by government of Germany. And today's session is particularly focusing on avoiding and substituting single-use plastics. I will be the co-moderator for the day. And may I welcome Dr. Alexis Basanella, Director, ISC3 Innovation Hub, for a brief introduction, followed by Dr. Rachna Arora. Over to you, Dr. Alexis.
So thank you very much, Vivek, for that. So I was already introduced, so I don't need to introduce myself anymore. Warm welcome to the renewed session of the Sustainable Chemistry Club. We've now teamed up with GIZ India on this and this specific topic on single-use plastic. To those that have been here for other sessions of the Sustainable Chemistry Club, we went off last year with a series on the UNEP, so United Nations Environment Program. 10 key objectives and guiding considerations for sustainable chemistry. And as also like the last time, we will have a number of startups featuring their innovation in terms of single-use plastics. And we will follow up with a discussion after that, to which also US participants are invited to contribute. So you can place your questions using the Q&A button on the lower side. And if you have any comments or remarks, you can also use the chat function. So please use that to also get involved. And with that being said, I would like to hand the floor to Dr. Rachna to give her introductory remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Alexis. And yeah, I'm Dr. Rachna Arora. I also work with GIZ. Currently, my name is displayed as Vivek because I think both of us joined from the same link. So just avoid and just look at carefully. I think it's quite interesting to actually collaborate with ISC3. I think we have been discussing with the team and Dr. Alexis over last, I would say, 1 year or maybe more. And this, of course, started with GIZ, or at least from the German government, the interest to work with innovation, circular economy, and of course, look at sustainable chemistry. So I think that's how this collaboration or a contact got established. And as it takes time to actually get things materialized between the both sides, but finally, today is the day. And we really warm welcome from my side as well. I would, I think at least try and put a bit of a context to what's the progress and development in India, especially considering that we have different sides of the issues being addressed, and plastics has, of course, gained a lot of momentum, especially when it comes to the global dialogue. I think it started with all across, with the G20, under the, I think, the Osaka Declaration, where marine litter and plastics leakages became as a big issue. In India also, there has been a lot of focus on the litter component, especially, and plastics have been considered kind of a major issue, especially considering the volumes and also considering the chemistry, looking at the biodegradation or no degradability of the component which is lying there littered. So that's got a lot of attention. But what, as GIZ India, we are doing is, of course, is a bilateral engagement. We work here with the Ministry of Environment forest and climate change through this project, as Vivek introduced, Circular Economy Solutions, Preventing Marine Litter. The project is funded by the German government, the Ministry of Environment, BMUV, and one of our major focus of the projects we started around 2021 was to actually look at extended producer responsibility as one of the policy instruments to see how prevention of marine litter could actually be looked at. So in 21, of course, this was quite interesting to actually look at EPR as a policy instrument to prevent leakages, but to also look at a lot of upstream design changes, which is where circular economy, which is where innovation plays a key role. So that's on the EPR front, and I think the way policy got notified, which is I think in 2022 in February, a lot of elements that they have introduced would actually be not possible if polymer chemistry sciences is actually not considered, because a lot of it is about upcycling, a lot of it is about recycled plastic and the recycled content, improving of that, and our targets are of course way too high as compared to even similar to Europe as such. So yeah, I think that's currently the policy regime that we have. But also in 2022, we actually got the SUP ban notified, which is where I think, as I mentioned, we were in touch with a lot of innovators, startups, and also the discussion with ISC3 started to see there is now a growing market of the SUP alternative providers in India across, and I also see some of our colleagues from Thailand and other regions that are joining in as well. So a lot of, at least I would say, a bit of market has got to evolve in this space, because bans are of course not there, but you need the market to actually push towards that change that the governments or that practitioners like us or even the consumers are looking at that. So I think to look at that, of course, there are some solutions which are there, but a lot of it is still relying on how do you create that market. The ban can of course create on both sides issues with regard, but you still need instruments of promoting the market creation, where I think a lot of, at least some of them who are there in this call, are the ones with whom we have had some interactions. Some of them have been part of national hackathons or state hackathons, and I think we were looking at that kind of a matchmaking, and this is where we are today, to see how and what kind of a platform we provided to these at least innovators, so that you find that kind of a, at least enabling environment for markets to take its own role. So yeah, I think that's there. We, as Jia said, I think a lot of people also know, we also try and put data for the governments to also look at in terms of assessment and all of that. So I would say over the last, in fact, when the year when the ban was actually introduced, we actually looked at an entire statewide methodology to actually estimate the market around the single-use plastics. This we did with the government. We did it with the Central Pollution Control Board, the regulatory authority in India, and it took them time to finalize. But that report is now out, and it's the SOP. It's the standard operating procedure for market assessments, which they have done. And when we look at those numbers and figures, of course, as I said, the market is evolving. It's there, but a lot of elements which are polymer chemistry related are still open ended. So I see role, I think, for at least for innovators, for ISC3, and of course as GIZ, to kind of see when you talk about products on the market which are agro residue based, or I don't know, there's so much innovation, rice brand to a lot of elements, and you all are the ones who are actually dealing with it on a daily basis. So yeah, I think that still needs a lot of discussion with the policymakers, at least with the governments, to actually enable maybe procurements or enable R&D, further technology, and of course with the brand owners, with the companies. So I really see that kind of, and this is, I would say, a starting point in the series for us. It's called ISC3, but of course it's still for us as the first in the series that we would like to hear all of you. And I'm really looking forward to this exchange. Thank you, Vivek. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Rachna. And I would also welcome all the startups who have joined us today. We have an amazing batch of 5 startups who have joined from India, as well as we have one from Colombia as well. So we would be doing their pitch as well during the session today. And I will now hand it over back to Dr. Alexis for the introduction to sustainable chemistry and innovation to give us an overview on the same topic. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you very much. I hope you can see my screen. Is
Yes.
that true?
Yes.
Okay.
It's good.
That sounds good. Yes, so I want to give a bit of the framework. You know, we at ISC3 are working on the support of sustainable chemistry with a special focus on startups, and sustainable chemistry is very broad. And of course, it also includes the whole issue of plastic recycling, new plastic materials, and so on. And that's why we also choose this topic. Now, okay. So we can, of course, perceive chemistry as a success stories in terms of the whole bunch of products we know and we use in our daily lives. So chemistry is very much dedicated to synthesis of compounds, materials, and of course the processes using that. And basically, for the time being, that's a flow-through economy. Which of course have some, well, as I said, success sides, but also downsides. So we have more than 350,000 chemicals and mixtures that are globally marketed today. And of course, many more than, or much more than 30,000 environmentally relevant products that, or compounds that are, well, subject to incomplete degradation. And yeah, so that's really the issue, and that's what we see also in terms of plastic materials and single-use plastic materials. And we all know these pictures where just plastic ends up in the environment after the use, and also as microplastics in the oceans. And of course, there's already more plastic particles in the ocean than fish. And we definitely don't want to continue this development. Another point, of course, in terms of the success story is we are using a lot of resources for providing plastic materials or chemicals as such. And we are running short of some of those resources, be it, of course, fossil feedstocks for the plastic materials. But of course, we also know that's true for some of the metals. It's true for bioresources. It's true for fresh water, for example. And so let's say the next step in the evolution of chemistry in that sense has been the concept of green chemistry, where we still look into compounds, into materials and the processes, and it's still based on a flow-through economy. But we try to at least get some solutions in terms of increasing the process efficiency for chemicals production using, for example, catalysis. Well, using as much as possible atom efficiency and avoid waste. And of course, also using renewable feedstocks instead of fossil feedstocks, for example. So that gives us a step towards being more efficient and to avoiding some of the limited fossil resources. But that has been only a first step. It doesn't help us with the issue of volume and complexity. And you see here plastics, for example. If we talk about plastics, we are not talking about just one single uniform material. So there are different kinds of polymers that can use different kinds of monomers, of course. And the plastic products also contain a lot of different other chemicals and additives like fillers, plasticizers, colorants, flame retardants, antioxidants, and so on and so on. So that's really a huge amount of chemicals that come with that. And even if we look at something like plastic packaging or sheets, for example, for food, that's not just one plastic material. It's usually a number of different layers compiled of different materials. So also adding to complexity. And of course, we also know that the number of, the production volume has been steadily increasing. So plastics is one of the strongest growing production processes. And of course, that goes in the end also for the amount of waste. There is one report from UNEP that's called Chemicals in Plastics that a bit more specifically looks into the amount and the characteristics of the different ingredients and chemicals. There are more than 13,000 identified chemicals in plastics. More than 7,000 having hazardous properties, and more than 3,000 of potential concern. So I can highly recommend to look into this report and see what's all in there. So it shows the challenges we're dealing with, and that we really need to work on that. So back to the evolution of chemicals. So let's say the next step in that sense is going to a sort of circular economy. And we see that also with many startups that are trying to deal with waste management and using plastic waste, for example, to come up with new products. So this now also looks into products and looking at the whole life cycle of products and where we end up with and how we might be able to also recycle products. So we're going towards a sort of circular economy here. The downside of that, of course, there's no endless recycling. So we are not really talking in the end about a circular economy. It's more like a sort of spiral staircase like this. And we can only try to have as many loops as possible, because we always have unavoidable losses in quantity and in quality. So we can't avoid that. For recycling, we need to put in energy. So thermodynamic tells us we can only lose in the end. And so that's an issue. And of course, also not all chemicals and products can be circulated. Think about shampoos, for example. But the same is true for some of the ingredients in plastic materials that also can efficiently, actually circumvent or hinder recycling. And just to show you a bit of an example in numbers, if we think about the value chain of collecting and reintroducing plastic materials in the system, even if we have a very high percentage at the different stages of collecting, disassembling the products, processing, and also a very efficient chemistry for providing in the end virgin-like material again, we're ending up in this 95% at each step with an overall rate of 81%. And the truth is more on the red number side, which is more than in the 15%, because collection is an issue. There are many materials from post-consumer waste that we really can't utilize. This is actually also limited. At least if we look at the currently used plastic products, and we don't do any innovation to change that. So this gives us then, let's say, the next step of the evolution towards sustainable chemistry, where we look at the whole life cycle of the process and the products, of course. Think about the design phase already. Think about what kind of service do we need and how can we provide a certain functions. And that might include also non-chemical alternatives. So do we really need the product in the first place? What is the best solution to provide the function? So that's all a very holistic view on processes and products. And of course, it also includes ethical compounds, social aspects like employment, like the conditions for workers and so on. So that's, let's say, our vision towards a sustainable economy where we take all of these things in account. And of course, that includes the concept of circular economy. It also includes the green chemistry aspects of being more efficient on the process side and using renewables and so on. We also see innovation as an important driver for sustainable chemistry, for sustainable solutions. And with that, we are not alone. So the UNEP 10 objectives and guided considerations I was naming at the very beginning have a lot of elements that look at innovation driving a holistic sustainable chemistry approach. And you see, I'm not going to read out all of these, but for example, number 2 saying avoiding regrettable substitutions and alternatives. So develop safe and sustainable alternatives for chemicals of concern through material and product innovation that do not create negative trade-offs. So there are many steps in there and guidance also on UNEP side looking for sustainable solutions where innovation is actually a key factor that supports the whole process. And we actually see startups as very important stakeholders in this process because they are agile, they're fast, and they are able to implement solutions in the market relatively rapidly. If we then look a bit further on the framework conditions, so we are going to deal with that also a bit in the discussion later on. So if we talk about substitution of single-use plastics, so what's the regulatory situation? And well, there are bans of single-use plastics. So Dr. Rechner was talking about that in her introduction. So the ban in India, for example, and of course there's the same kind of development in Europe. There are loopholes, there are a lot of exemptions, industry groups that are trying, or lobby groups that are trying to influence policymakers. And so it ends up with a relatively complex, and you see it downstairs here in the European statement. So we end up with a complicated mix of different measures. So that's true for the European market, for example. Many nationally diverged measures, and that's of course a barrier in the end because you don't have reliable framework conditions for new products. But of course, there are also good policy initiatives that go into the right direction and help us. One of that in Europe, for example, is the chemical strategy for sustainability that also includes the concept of safe and sustainable by design. Looking at products from a holistic point of view and also already starting at the design phase. So statement here is up to 80% of the environmental impacts of products are already determined at the design phase. And I was talking about the issues like the complexity in the material. So how can we simplify the composition of products? How can we design it in a way that it's more easy to disassemble and so on? So this is part of that concept of safe and sustainable by design. Looking at the whole life cycle in design, development, production, and also use of chemicals, always having the end of life also in mind. And that's driven also by the benign of design concept, looking into the different phases of developing a product and also looking through the value chains and having the different aspects like circularity. Here, looking at molecules, materials, and products and try to have them as much as possible circulated in closed loops on a B2B side, for example. Recycling to use molecules, materials, and products that are more easily to be recycled or don't really provide a problem during the recycling products. So to be easily to be collected and dismantled, have a substantial lifetime and doesn't need a lot of energy and additional resources in reintroducing them into the circle. And of course, at the end of the life, like I said, there's no infinite circle. It's always going downstairs somehow. at the end of the life, looking also at to design materials in a way that they are mineralized or composted at the end of their life. So we need to develop materials that end up with complete mineralization, so we don't end up with plastic in the environment or microplastics that survives for several hundred years in the environment and provides a lot of problems. Yeah, and we are going to hear a lot about examples with the startups. So there are opportunities, and as I said, startups are really presenting these opportunities, are developing these the solutions, and you will see some of the examples later on. So of course, these are just a number of elements here, like using bio-based feedstocks, in particular waste feedstocks, so non-fossil feedstocks, including waste streams from other production processes, for example. Reuse and recycle concepts, so really enabling a circular economy concepts by reusing and recycling of plastic waste. Biodegradability, of course, as I said, so biodegradable and compostable plastic alternatives. And from a social point of view, as we said, this is also an element of sustainable chemistry. Startups that really empower local communities, for example, use the informal waste collectors or waste pickers community or the local community to provide to create value and employment. That's an important element. And the last sorry the last part in terms of the innovation alternatives is, as I said, not only think about what kind of service do we need to provide, so avoiding packaging, for example. And there's also one example, solid forms of normally liquid products where we can provide cosmetics, detergents, cleaning agents, and so on in a solid form, and thereby are able to avoid plastic packaging. So I'm not going to introduce case studies or case examples on that. I leave that for the startups to do. And with this very short introduction on the concept of sustainable chemistry and how it relates to the plastic issue and the topic we have for today, well, I hand over to Vivek.
Thank you, Dr. Alexis. That was really wonderful to capture the sustainable chemistry and safe and sustainable by design concepts, which will actually contribute to innovation. So we have a bunch of innovators and entrepreneurs joining us today. And I would briefly mention these are wonderful startups who are working in different areas, what Dr. Alexis have just mentioned. So we will structure it in a way that we have a presentation from each of the startups, followed by discussions. And the startups, for example, we have a startup named Kudrat. We have a startup followed by Notipla, Arani EcoSteps, Versia, Tushan joining the call today. The founders are joining who will brief us on what their products are, what their services they are offering. And with that, I will start the session. And before that, I would also like to introduce Dr. Matthews, who would be the expert today during our discussion, who would be supporting us in the entire discussions period, who is actually bridging sustainability and technology and driving circular economy solutions. Once the startup pitches are complete, we would have that discussion as well. So without further delay, I would like to welcome the first startup of the day, which is Kudrat. Kudrat is basically a startup which upcycles agricultural waste and residue into sustainable disposable tableware. And we are joined by today Mr. Rishabh Suri, who is the co-founder and CEO of this early stage waste to value startup. He has got a lot of awards nationally and globally, some to go there. He's a recipient of BRICS Plus Top 100 Entrepreneurs Award. One got Breakthrough Ideas for Social Impact Award, and is part of the Leap to Unicorn Top 100 Startups to watch out for. So I would pass on to Kudrat. Rishabh, over to you, and please stick on to a time of 5 minutes for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek, and I hope you can hear me loud and clear. And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, so hi, good morning and afternoon for whoever respectively it is. My name is Rishabh. I run a startup, an early stage startup called Kudrat, where we upcycle agricultural waste and convert it into disposable tableware and packaging. Yeah. So the value proposition that we have to offer our customer is that essentially the raw material for all our products is agricultural waste and some form of agricultural produce. Our products degrade in garden soil, and a few of them also act as fertilizer post-use. To give it resistance, there's no form of microplastic lining, laminate, or adhesive that's used. It can hold all kinds of food, hot food, cold food, watery food, something that has more of liquid in it. It's a product that's rigid and strong to hold. It will not become flimsy with holding of food on top of it. It can go into the microwave, it can go into the freezer, and the disposal of it is also very easy. It can easily go along with your kitchen waste. So secondly, why are we building this business at this point of time is essentially because disposable tableware globally stands at a $41 billion market, out of which only 2% currently is contributed by sustainable materials, which include sugarcane bagasse, areca palm leaf, and any other sustainable options. In terms of growth, it's a market that's growing by 2% every year. But India, on the other hand, is growing at a rate of 8%. We're essentially based out of India. And the reason why we are building in this sector and why we are so bullish on India comes from 5 factors. Number one being that just like electric vehicles, we saw a transition of total electric vehicles of 2% being sold in 2018 versus an 18% in 2023. So we believe that sustainable materials will replace all the existing materials that are out there. The category that we are in, disposable tableware and packaging, a global product. It's used by everyone across the world. And we also see that due to food aggregators coming into play, there is a big demand for takeaways. And because of that, that is just a growing market. So takeaway containers is a very good fit that comes into our product portfolio. China is one of the major manufacturing hubs for these products at this point of time, but with geopolitical tensions and issues, we see a lot of supply chain that's shifting into India. So that's really good for us. And lastly, the agricultural waste that comes into play over here. India is the second largest in the world for rice, and of course for sugar also on number 1 and number 2 somewhere. So we have enough of this raw material and a good workforce that can help us build a product from India for the world. Talking a little about the products, the agricultural waste that we currently deal with primarily consists of rice husk, rice straw, both byproducts of paddy cultivation, coconut leaves, and sugarcane bagasse. Again, while cultivating these crops, these are the agricultural waste that come out. In terms of the products that we are already selling in the market, it includes a range of rice husk products, natural bagasse, white bagasse, natural fibers. We also do edible cutlery in terms of spoons and forks. And we also have a new product lineup that we are bringing. Some of them are under trials and some of them are yet to be introduced. These include cups, disposable bowls, and rice husks. And of course, the takeaway range where we are trying to improvise on the gravy holding capacity of our containers, the lid sealing, and trying to solve problems around. We also see a big market in the reusable side where there's an integration of agricultural waste into the product. And lastly, we are also, with our existing clients, there is a demand for packaging that's coming in. So out of the people who are already there in the system, we are piloting with a few of them for 100% recycled paper also coming into play. A little bit about the traction and the sales in the sales side. So we've been in sales for approximately 16 total months. This is our 17th month. So in India, we have clients ranging from a Chaayos to a Leela. So Chaayos stands at a 210, 220 units touch point. Similar is Chai Point. So we do see that there is traction in this sector already that we have. We've also done some sales in the global market. So US, Canada, UK, and Mexico is where we've already exported into. And in Q2, especially August itself, we are planning to close Japan. And next month, we should be able to do a consignment to the UAE. In terms of impact, in these 16 months, we've been able to replace close to around 30 lakh single-use plastic disposables, alongside giving 1.5 lakh kilograms of agricultural waste a second life. And yes, there's further impact that comes in terms of the emissions also that we were able to reduce as compared to plastic-based manufacturing. So yeah, that's all I have to say. I hope I did not exceed my 5 minutes. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rishabh. That was on time. Thank you so much. We will have a discussion after this, but now I would like to go to the next startup, which is Natupla. So Natupla develops and produces bio-based and biodegradable plastic and adhesives as alternatives for petroleum-based materials. And we are joined by the founder, Catherine Carrillo, who is a passionate person about reducing plastic waste and fostering social entrepreneurship. With a background in industrial engineering and masters in social innovation and entrepreneurship, she has gained valuable experience working in both Colombia and Germany. As CEO of Natupla, she leads a team of dedicated members who addresses plastic contamination by developing the biodegradable polymers. So welcome, Catherine, over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna be sharing here on my screen.
Perfect.
All right, so hope you can hear me all. Hi, my name is Catherine, and I would like to share with you today how we could make plastic waste disappear. Plastic is undeniably incredible. Perhaps you were expecting me to say that plastic is bad. Well, the combination of its properties, low cost, have made plastic the most amazing material over the last century. However, it raised some questions around the CO2 production, plastic pollution, and the recyclability of complex materials. The current state of the world is demanding us to find more sustainable solutions. To land this problem into the global south context, or particularly Colombia, here we have 1.4 million tons of plastic that is consumed yearly, and only 9% is recycled, despite there is not good separation at source, nor good waste management systems in place. But thank you to the 60,000 waste pickers that we have all around the country, which mostly have precarious working conditions. So what happened to the other 91% that doesn't get collected? Well, it ends up directly in the nature nearby, or is it transported to a landfill? Countries that have longer coastlines, higher levels of rainfall, and poor waste management infrastructure will see higher levels of plastic following the oceans. At Natupla, we develop materials to harness the magic of plastic without the ecological price tag. Our bio-based and biodegradable products are changing the polymer industry, making a positive impact with each product we create. In our production process, we use renewable-based materials, such as starch and agricultural byproducts. We follow green chemistry principles, avoiding solvents and harmful substances, and using clean technologies to produce our material that later can be molded into different shapes, using traditional plastic machinery. Finally, at the end of our product life cycle, we aim for biodegradability in home compost, meaning at low temperatures with low humidity conditions. These are some of the images of our material fulfilling production, tested in external facilities with some. We have also mixed our compound with residues from the cocoa industry to obtain rigid and semi-rigid alternatives to plastic, in cooperation with an important company in the sector that currently has more than 3,000 tons of cocoa waste per year. And we are engaged in 3 key business areas: the bioplastic that I already mentioned, but we are also working on bioadhesives to reduce the amount of water and to produce safe and biodegradable adhesives or paper, and also on biofertilizers to avoid nitrogen loss and microplastic for controlled release fertilizers. Our materials development follow 3 key principles. First, we ensure our products are competitively priced to reach a wider market. Second, we design our solutions for what they are needed and how they are disposed. And third, we focus on adapting our materials to the traditional plastic machinery. We are located in Cali, Colombia. We have been working in Natupla over the last 2.5 years and have received more than $125,000 from grants and savings. We are doing our first sales this year. We're a team of 5 people with great experience in this sector. Last but not least, we believe in making business differently. We want to bring benefits for all the players on the correct plastic value chain. We also believe that through innovation and business scaling up, more people, such as farmers and traditional plastic converters, could profit from it. Welcome to the future, where bioplastic aren't just an alternative, they are the natural choice for a sustainable tomorrow. So are you ready to build together the future of plastic without waste? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Catherine. That was really wonderful and precisely social and environmental impact. Great. Thank you so much. And next we have Arani Eco Steps. So Arani Eco Steps is zero waste refillable services and daily use consumer products in home care, personal care, hygiene, and commercial cleaning and packaging without any plastics. So we are joined today by Gauri, who is the co-founder of Arani Eco Steps based out of India, which manufactures non-toxic and low-waste personal and home care essentials. A management graduate from Indian School of Business, Hyderabad, she spent 5 years in private equity and venture capital investors in pharmaceuticals, medical devices, and healthcare services. At Arani, Gauri leads product development and community building. And I would welcome Gauri. Over to you, Gauri.
Thanks, Vivek, and hi, everyone. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Great. So, hi, everyone. I'm Gauri, and I'm the co-founder of Arani EcoSteps, a Sanskrit word for the twig used to kindle fire. Arani was started in January 2021, and it is an initiative to fight single-use plastic pollution. It is a brand of personal, dental, and home care essentials. Screen is not moving forward. Sorry, 1 second. I apologize for that. Is this moving ahead now?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. So to this gathering, I don't really need to state it. Single-use plastic has emerged as a very big problem of the modern world. When first developed, plastic was hailed as a wonder material. But with time, this highly durable polymer has become a rapid disposable. In fact, today, the largest use, nearly 40% of the 300 million tons of plastic produced every year, is as single-use packaging of consumer products. I think my system has an issue. Sorry. It isn't easy to remove plastic from primary packaging of products. It provides such an excellent barrier after all. It is inexpensive and inert, properties that no other material has been able to achieve to this extent so far. But consumers want a change, and they want to reduce their personal waste and their impact of the consumption on the environment. At Arani, we decided to solve this packaging problem by redesigning the products. Basically, to get rid of the plastic, we got rid of the water. Our primary approach has been to reformulate daily use essentials of personal and home care as dry concentrates. This solves 3 problems. First, since water makes up about 90% of liquid products, a compact form would require significantly less packaging. Second, since the product is now dry, even that little packaging doesn't need a strong moisture barrier and can be of a more sustainable material. And finally, there's now no need to transport water over thousands of kilometers, saving significantly on carbon footprint of these essentials. To avoid multi-laminate toothpaste tubes, we created toothpaste tablets that need to simply be chewed and brushed normally. To avoid shampoo bottles and face wash tubes, we created bars that are extremely nourishing and can be packaged in simple paper. On the home care front, our approach is to enable reuse of old bottles that all households have. Hand wash, dishwash, toilet cleaner, surface cleaner, floor cleaner, and laundry liquids have been designed as concentrates that simply need to be added to water at home and then used normally. All these products are packaged in paper, home compostable starch films, cardboard boxes, or reusable metal and glass containers. Affordability is imperative to long-term adoption of these solutions. On the pricing front, we have ensured benchmarking to mass market FMCG leaders so that switching to these alternatives doesn't come at an additional cost to our consumers. These products also last longer than their counterparts and hence prove to be more cost-effective. The dehydrated format has helped us eliminate multiple ingredients that are needed to stabilize liquid formulations. We are also able to incorporate nourishing oils and butters in the solid formats that give very good results in personal care products. Finally, eliminating harsh chemicals while using effective and plant-based surfactants has made our home care concentrates a huge favorite among our consumers. Since starting our journey in January 2021, Arani has delivered over 90,000 units of plastic-free products, saving 6.5 tons of plastic waste and 35 tons of carbon emissions. Most orders contain a uniform mix of personal and home care products, underscoring the consumer's intent to save plastic across product categories. While this may evolve as we mature, our go-to-market strategy currently is a digital-first direct-to-consumer brand. We have focused on creating awareness about the issue since it is key to driving individual demand. The link between what an individual throws into his or her dustbin and what ends up in our landfills needs to be communicated very clearly for individual choices to change. To summarize, Arani aspires to create a meaningful impact on the plastic waste crisis by providing individuals and households affordable, non-toxic, and plastic-free alternatives of daily use essentials. We hope this initiative helps cut the amount of waste at origin and reduces the burden on waste management systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Gauri. Thanks for being on time. And it's wonderful, a different approach from the other startups we have presented. Now, I would like to invite Vosia Eco Solutions Private Limited, who manufactures eco-friendly and biodegradable products. Their BioLayer provides an environment-friendly alternative to the plastic coating and offers a safe, non-toxic food migration barrier. And it's an excellent alternative for packaging products in FMCG, pharma, printing, courier industries. To introduce the speaker today, we have Mr. Nitish, who is a serial entrepreneur with a passion for environment, having founded multiple business in recycling products and hospitality industry in the Middle East and India. And Vosia is an eco brand that has also grabbed a lot of accomplishments and awards. Notable one is the recent recognition in the Zomato Hackathon, which is Zomato is a food delivery service in India, being selected as the top 10 out of these startups. And it's one of the emerging startups in India working on this space. So I welcome Mr. Nitish. Over to you.
Hello all. I
Yes.
hope I'm audible.
Yes, please. Yeah, you're audible.
Hi, this is Nitish here, founder of Varshya. Varshya means in Sanskrit, it's rain related to nature. We are based in the south end of India, is Trivandrum, the capital of Kerala. Varshya basically focus on sustainable packaging. And our core focus in the packaging sector is the food packaging and especially the primary food contact. So we have our research lab facility here in Trivandrum. Like Vivek said, we've been selected as one of the top 10 companies by Zomato in the plastic-free food packaging. We've been awarded as one of the best startup in the manufacturing sector in 2024 by Government of Kerala. So we were focusing more on supplying the eco-friendly food packagings made of sugarcane waste, bagasse, and paper, outsourced from different manufacturers, supplying to 4-star, 5-star hotels. And we were doing quite decent revenue initially even in the COVID time. But we as founders, we always have passion towards the sustainability, the environment protections and all. We understood the future challenge is going to be the paper packagings which we are using here, having a barrier coating which is made of polyethylene, or the LDP coating, which is having the issue of microplastic and also hazardous for human. Several doctors unofficially claim that there are more than 55 types of cancers which comes from the microplastic. So basically any food packagings like paper cups, paper food boxes, burger boxes, anything you'll find the plastic lamination or plastic coating. The hot food comes in contact with the plastic, there's a different chemical reaction and it's hazardous for health and both for the environment. So or approximately around 3 million food orders per day in India happens, like a lot of leading food online aggregators are there. Plastic packaging consume more than 100 per day is 130 tons. So this 90% of this plastics never go for recycling, and the microplastic pollutions issues are there. So the immediate alternative for the plastic packaging is paper, definitely. But the paper which has been introduced in the market to hold the hot beverages or any oily stuff having this polyethylene coating. So we introduced the alternative, which is a barrier coating developed from vegetable oil. So currently we are using soybean oil, which is very much available here in India. And The sourcing of oil currently we are doing through some factories, but we are working on to associate with farmers so that we can have the oil direct from the source to have a transparent supply chain. So, and we are also working on developing the similar barrier coating from used cooking oil. So that the waste disposal of the oil from different restaurants and other factories can be saved. Initially, we are planning to take as a phase 1 to take single used oil, and for that we are targeting to get the oils from the chips manufacturers who are having a systematic process of manufacturing can deliver us one-time used oil. Our product is completely certified, one of the leading government institution called CPET for biodegradability, and also we've been certified for compostability. We've been certified for US FDA, heavy metal detection, and also for repurposability. The certifications. Paper market is a very huge market of 24.5 billion, where the coated paper itself, with the coated paper is around 300 million. How we involve in the entire value chain or in this paper market, we do produce the solutions. So solutions from the vegetable oil, we can supply direct to the paper factory, we can supply to the coating factory, and also we can do ourselves the coating and convert the coated paper into finished packaging product. So before we were only doing the trading of packaging products, now we are making the raw material, converting the raw material into the final finished product and supplying to the end users. So we are strongly involved in the value chain of raw material sources to end product selling to the end user. We are a light asset business model. We don't increase a lot of capex. We have a couple of contract manufacturers for coating our paper, but the proprietary solution making happen in-house within our factory. And we do source raw material from different places of India, and in-house production of oil happens, which goes for the coating, then for converting into different packaging boxes. Like if you can see in the video here, I am showing you the food boxes. You can see this food boxes having a coating inside. This is from our vegetable oil coating. I'm just keeping. Yeah, this is our team working for the R&D special. We have a separate team for the operations. And also we are working on parallelly one more technology, which is we are replacing the thermocol, which is used for the cold logistic. I hope you can see in the picture that I'm just talking.
Yeah.
This is a thermocol, alternative thermocol box made from agro waste, and we are applying our coating on this one. This can hold ice and ice pack to use for seafood export and flower export and vaccine export.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is our achievement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nitish. Thanks for the presentation. And we have the last presentation, which is also an amazing startup in India. It's named Tushan. So Tushan manufactures alternatives, plates, bowls, spoons, straws, everything from natural wheat bran, paddy husk, broken wasted rice, and rice bran. And the organization was recognized as an official tableware during G20 summit in India, which was held last year. And we are joined by the founder, Mr. Vinay Balakrishnan, who is a senior management professional with international experience of more than 25 years in banking, insurance operation, who is now following the passion of manufacturing alternatives to single-use plastic products. He was also invited by the Honorable Prime Minister of India for the Prime Minister Kisan Sammelan, which was held in New Delhi last year. So I would like to welcome Mr. Vinay for the presentation. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Greetings, everybody. Hope you can see my presentation. Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So greetings of the day, everybody. My name is Vinay Balakrishnan. We manufacture biodegradable alternative to single-use plastic, like agri-waste, like rice bran, wheat bran, wasted rice powder, or paddy husk. And we can actually customize any biodegradable or agriculture waste from any part of the world. We have the technology and we can convert any waste. We are registered in Kerala, but currently operating from a factory in Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. So as you know, from 1st January 2022, India has banned single-use plastic like any other country. So people are put a lot of discomfort without any affordable alternative. So what our solution is, we are creating an alternative which is eco-friendly, biodegradable, so that people don't move back to plastic. And this is our D slide. As you can see, the products, what we have is basically the plates. I can show you if you want. I think these are the plates made from wheat bran. And these are the plate made from paddy husk we have. We have our straws made from wasted broken rice. We have the fork, knife, spoon, and made from the rice bran. So the biggest advantage of this material is after use, if you can use it as reuse it as a cattle feed, poultry feed, fish feed, or as organic manure, it biodegrades 30 days. We are already certified by international and national institutes in India. And our products are currently plates, drinking straws, forks, and takeaway cups and food containers are on the way. It's already tested and certified as 100% biodegradable in 180 days. Forks, knife, and spoon. The plates and the straws are biodegradable in 30 days. And this is our fully automated robotic plant at Coimbatore. We have just added one more machinery now. It's a fully automated plant without any human touch. We are making the products. And already available in the market, we have the plates made from wheat bran and rice paddy husk. It's already certified by TUV, European Union, as well as Government of India, CSIR. And on the fork, on the paddies, on our straw side, it's already certified by TUV again, FSSI. We've been certified by Government of Kuwait, Government of UAE, as well as US FDA compliant. And it biodegrades in 30 days. It's also a home compostable product. And next month, we are launching our cutleries, fork, knife, and spoon, and as well as takeaway containers. The biggest advantage of the take advantage containers is once after use, you can plant the seedlings. After 6 months, you will see a plant, not the pot. That is our biggest advantage. It's 100% compostable and certified already, and it biodegrades 100% within 180 days. And we have won a lot of awards and recognition. As Vivek said, we were officially represented in the G20 summit, and we were the national award winners. We were invited by the Prime Minister for Kisan Sammelan. We won the Agri-Tech National Award, as well as Agri Innovation Award. We won the United Nations Award for the Innovation, World Travel Mart Award, Youngest Young Climathon runner-up, as well as we are incubated at IIT Kanpur, Indigram Delhi, as well as Kerala Agriculture University. And we are currently exporting to 7 countries, and we are available in offline as well as online market. And we are supplying to Indian Navy, Indian Coast Guard, right from Jammu and Kashmir to Kanyakumari. We have our product ranges available. And we are available online everywhere in all the Instagram and Facebook and other places. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Vinay. That was wonderful and on time. So we have completed the presentations by the amazing set of startups on the diverse set of products and projects. So with this, I would like to hand over to Dr. Alexis for the next session, which is our discussion and Q&A. So over to you, Dr. Alexis. And I would also like to welcome Dr. Matthews as the expert in the field.
Okay, thank you, Vivek. So that was really amazing examples we have seen. We want to have a bit more of a look for the situation. So the overall question is, what's the status of single-use plastic alternatives? Is it straightforward to develop those solutions and bring them to the market, or is it actually a difficult endeavor? So we want to shed a bit more light on this, of course. And once again, I would like to invite the participants. If you have any questions, you can put that in the Q&A and we can take that up a bit later. So I would like to start with Mateusz. You've been the only one not talking so far. So how do you see, how would you assess this situation? So what are opportunities, what are challenges in terms of plastic innovations, single-use plastic substitutes from your experience?
Thank you very much. First of all, also thanks for the invitation here, and congratulations to all the startups with these amazing innovations. I think what was interesting for me to see is also that a lot of policy frameworks that are a strong driver actually to push these innovations into the market are not much different than what's happening in Europe. Unfortunately, I don't have such an in-depth view on the situation in terms of regulatory drivers in India as I have on Europe and from Europe. But I think, yeah, there is definitely now a time which is favored not only by regulations to bring these kind of innovations into the market, but also what we might not forget is the consumer awareness around these topics. Because, I mean, if you look at the presentations, the last 5 presentations, they all start with a picture or an image that is not an industrial problem, but is a problem that touches all of us. So you have microplastics, pollution in the sea, you have negative health impacts that affect each one of us. And this is, of course, driving the awareness of consumers, and is reflected then in the market and in the demand. And I think here it was mentioned in one of the first, I think, presentations that especially brands are now looking into solutions because they are directly facing the consumers. They face the consumer demand, and of course there is a pressure from the regulatory side, but I think what we have seen in the last couple of years is that brands actively seek those solutions, not only to jump as high as they have to driven by the regulations, but also to be a front runner and to have some marketing advantages. Still, I mean, I can probably, all the startups can confirm it's a long way to commercialize these solutions because there are a lot of challenges from technical performance aspects that need to fit with available standards that sometimes are also a bit old and not adopted to these new solutions. And then, of course, the price parity that needs to be achieved. So there is a long way still to go, but definitely when it comes to the chances, there is both the push from the regulations and the consumer side that makes it a good time for these kind of innovations.
Thank you, Mateusz. And I would like to open that to our startups. Perhaps first starting with this one of these aspects that Mateusz was mentioning, that's rising consumer awareness. So question is, what is your experience with consumer acceptance, also with, let's say, acceptance by B2B partners about also the credibility for your products? So do you need to provide a lot of evidence there? Do you really have to fight for, because you're all competing with existing products, of course, essentially. So I would be very highly interested to learn a bit about your experiences in this respect. So I don't want to name you individually, so who's willing to
How do we do this?
respond to that? Oh, Now you
just
started your answer, so you're in. So
Okay.
please.
So yeah, Martis, thank you for that. And what you said, there's a valid point. But I think the crux of this, despite of all the awareness also being there, and it is not only that it's a domestic thing in our country in India, it's something that we see on a global platform where we are trying to
Mhm.
pitch also to an international client across in Japan, or whether it's there in the EU or the US. I think affordability is the biggest problem that we see over here. And despite of awareness being there, I think cost sensitivity is a big problem. And like I said, like earlier, I was under the assumption that it is more of a domestic problem, but it is something that we see even in Europe, we see it in the US, we see it in the Far East, and China gets an edge over us in that. Their products are also equally good, but yes, the customer is very sensitive. So I think as long as affordability becomes better, the adoption will also go up. They're both directly proportional. And yeah, those would be my two pieces.
Yeah, I will take.
How about the others? That also your experience would say, well, affordability is an issue, and in particularly if you have potentially higher costs of feedstocks and so on, when you have to compete with still relatively low costs of fossil feedstocks. So, but let's stay for the part of the credibility and acceptance first. So,
Dr. Alexis, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nitish, did I interrupt?
Yeah, no, Rishabh, tell me.
Yeah, so I think Dr. Alexis, the credibility part is non-negotiable. So there is a certain certification barrier that you have to clear before
Mhm.
you even can think of entering that. So that is something that's non-negotiable on the table. And so, for example, even when we classify buyers, I would put them in different categories. So if it is a big corporation that's buying from you, they have a separate kind of a criteria that they look for. Whether it's some importer who's buying the product from you, they have a different process or a certain certification level that they look for. But I think all in all, this is something that is non-negotiable, that has to be out there. So you first clear this barrier, and then of course the affordability part of it comes now.
So I think Nitish was first, then Vinay, and then Mateusz.
Thanks, Alexis. No, I'm just taking what Rishabh has said, extending the same thing. Affordability part, the reason is if you go like ancient.
Sorry, could you move a bit closer to the microphone? It's a bit difficult to
okay
hear
now?
you.
Okay now? Yeah,
Yeah.
at least if you take 25 years back, the people used to use leaves and all for packaging the foods. So then the plastic came. So if you do the cost analysis, the plastic itself is so cheaper that most of the restaurants or something, they don't consider the cost of the packaging because it goes much below than the overall cost. But when it comes to sustainable material, it reflects the cost of the packaging reflect. But we still believe, like for example, in India, if you see the average order value in online foodware around Indian rupees, it is around 350. I think it should be somewhere around $2.5. Okay. So in 350 rupees, most of them you can see if you go in detail, they're charging somewhere around 10 rupees as the packaging charge. We had analyzed in very deep. If the order is average value is 300 to 350 rupees, hardly it goes 3% of the order value to go for a sustainable packaging, entire cost. So I'm talking about the hot food packaging where you need to carry the gravy and all. So it's hardly it goes for 2.5 to 3% is the entire cost go for only if you replace to the sustainable packaging. I'm not saying the difference between the plastic and sustainable, the entire sustainable packaging cost. So second, I think there should be a strong push from the government side about using the sustainable material. Also, there is limitations, the consumptions of the plastic in the market. I think if you go for the alternative products, we don't have that much production capacity at the moment to replace complete plastic consumption in a single study. It might take more time. So affordability, I believe it is possible. You can't count on the very bottom line restaurants and all, but yeah, above that, definitely 2.5 to 3% is not a very big amount in the average order value. This I'm talking about the food. Second, even a lot of brands approach us other than the food item they want for the packaging. If you analyze that costing also, I don't think it's a very huge difference for them to add that cost in the entire their product cost, because plastic is so cheap that doesn't reflect in their package. That packaging cost is not reflecting in the entire cost. That's the only thing. The moment you add this one, 2.5%, I don't think it's a very big amount.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Vinay, you would be next.
Yeah. See, what we have seen, not only in India, any other countries, any countries for that matter, banning is one issue. But how do you effectively ban it? So there is no difference between any country. Whether you take any country for that matter, you cannot ban it without an alternative. And we are still not there. Any country for that matter. So this is one thing. Second thing is, why should the people change? There should be some incentives. So what is the incentive? That there should be support from the government saying that, like EVs, we are giving some tax breaks for getting into electric vehicles. So are we doing something from that? So if we do that, naturally, at least some percentage of the people can move to sustainable products. And these sustainable companies, whoever is manufacturing, has to be supported with a tax breaks or something like that. So some discounts or something so that people can buy and at least check, see, because it cannot be competing with plastic at any cost on a price war. It is not possible. So either you cannot stop 100% single-use plastic also, it will take a lot of time. The only option is to incentivize the consumers. When you buy this, you get a discount and the government pays back something. This is what my take for it.
Okay, I think Mateusz was first, and then
I
Catherine.
think Catherine was first, so I do later.
Really? Okay, sorry, then I didn't. Catherine. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, like in our case, since we sell the raw material for producers, so we needed to convince plastic manufacturers to try a different material, a different polyethylene or polypropylene that is the one they know. So our biggest challenge to convince them was not about that the material is biodegradable or the material works. It's more about the technical parts and to know if it's gonna run in their traditional machinery. So of course, on the beginning, when we started working on this last year, we have some people that were willing to try, some companies that were willing to try because they believe in sustainability, they believe this is the future, they believe they need to find alternative materials. But these were a few companies. Now that the law is in place and that everyone is looking for alternatives, so now we are getting a lot of requests and a lot of people willing to try the material. So I believe that when the law is out there and already working and in place, people is more willing to take the risk to try new and different stuff, even if they are a bit more expensive as well. So there were some people already willing to try it, but the law helped a lot to give a big push to have more people willing to risk it somehow.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point what Catherine said, that you need these incentives from the government on both sides. I think on the B2B side, where you have the large corporates that have the possibility to scale and have things to try out, where you can really test your solution also on industrial setups. That is mostly driven by the regulations. But then on the other hand, what Vinay said is also a very good point, because you have to somehow incentivize or make these solutions also affordable for the consumers. I mean, what's happening in Europe at the moment is, if you look into more sustainable products, it's not the majority that can afford them. It's mostly much higher prices, or it's being used in some luxurious goods or higher priced goods, unless there is a push from the legislation, which drives, for example, a ban of plastic bags or something like this. And suddenly, this one also makes it accessible, or especially the more sustainable product makes it accessible to the larger public. And this one rolls, step by step, like a wave, the scaling on the industrial side, but also the scaling on the consumer side. And one thing, because that's what Rishabh said in the beginning, I think one hurdle at the moment is because it's still a very new process. Also, if you look at the regulations in Europe, there was the EU plastics regulation 2018. Now it was 2021 when we had the single-use plastic ban. Now there is the approval of a pre-version of the plastic products and plastic waste PPWR regulation. So it's still a very slow process. And the problem is, if you're a startup and if you're a small company, basically, you cannot just go into multiple markets at once. You have to just focus on one first, because you don't have the capacity. And what many of these solutions don't go to scale because they don't generate recurring revenues, for example, or they don't become investable after a certain time. And especially like this, securing like the offtake is difficult. And this one, especially with new materials, if they go into food products, then you start off in a market, even in Europe, you start off in one country, but the standards and certifications are still not harmonized, for example, for bio-based or biodegradability on the product. So it's very difficult for an innovator to really scale also in the market, like in regionally. So that's kind of where policy still needs some strengthening and some development. And I think incentives for these innovations coming from the government are certainly needed at this stage. And I mean, we have a push from the Circular Economy Action Plan to really also focusing on bioeconomy solutions. So there are things happening, but it's still very slow.
Okay, so I saw a lot of nodding, but yeah, Rishabh, you're next.
Yeah, so Matthias, I just wanted to add to your point, just a quick point here. So one of the international customers whom we were trying to work with was based out of Israel. And this is before the war had broken out. So Israel has a policy where they've taxed single-use plastic products. And because of that tax being in place, the cost of plastic goods in terms of what compares with disposable tableware and what we make is almost at par in terms of price. That is why we are able to get a very good order book from Israel. So if Israel can model something like this, it is something that I think all the others can also think about modeling themselves on. Yeah, just wanted to add that point.
Okay.
Dr. Alexis, I think we have a couple of questions also in the chat.
Yeah,
Maybe.
good. Right, I saw some of that. Right, so there's one. Well, you're now at a certain stage, on nascent stage. Well, some of you are already on the market, some of you are on international markets. So not only, for example, in India. So once you start to grow bigger, do you believe that the business model to follow is one of replicability? So that many others should start business that copy or are similar, or of scalability, so that you would be able or scale up to match the size of the demand and really big companies. So that is the question. So any views on that? So Rishabh, I don't know if that's a new hand or you're still.
Yeah, I have answered for this. Yeah. Hello.
Nitish, yes, your voice
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, we can answer.
Yeah, I answer for this. Definitely, it's a good question because when you go for scalability, there will be like, for example, the big giants are not in the field still now. So they will enter this field in another 4-5 years time. So definitely the competition will rise. So us Varsha, what is our vision? You don't just rely on one technology or one product. So if in that case, if you move forward, definitely you will come under pressure for the competition. Then you have to compromise the quality. Then you have to hike the price, and also we are working on multiple technologies so that the company, as a company, the business, it should sustain profitability. Second, currently any technology you take, there is a availability of the raw materials. If the availability of raw material is plenty within the local area, then your price will remain competitive. Third, it's my request to all of you, if you can take this to the government. Government should reduce the charges they are asking for the certifications. Within India, if you have to go for a biodegradable certification, first you need to wait for 6 months. Second, you have to spend somewhere close to 4 lakh rupees. If you go abroad for a certification, similar, you have to spend in Indian rupees around 10 lakh, 10 to 25 lakh. So the certification cost itself is very high. Definitely that will reflect in the end product cost. So this is my take. Yeah.
Okay. So perhaps Catherine, because you're also your innovation is also dealing with biodegradability in the end. So would you share that view? So how is it different in Colombia in that sense, also on the certification part?
As I mentioned in the last intervention, like we just have running the single plastic use, like started running like a couple of months ago. So it's something that everyone is talking right now at the moment about how to analyze biodegradability and compostability and how to certify it. So at the moment, we don't have any laboratory in Colombia doing this kind of tests. That's something we are also trying to move forward and try to advance, because also at the moment under the legislation is quite broad. So biodegradation is thought as a product that is biodegradable should degrade 85% in 4 years. And this is really, really far from what an international certification on compostability or biodegradability will measure. That is something around 180 days. So it's the legislation is still quite broad, let's gonna say, like still needs to be more specific. But I think it's gonna take a couple of years more for the government to first have the laboratories in place, to have the certification in place, to have the infrastructure in place, and to adjust the law, because I don't think it's gonna stay in that way as it is currently. So yeah, from our side, we're trying to push forward to see what we can do, because there is not so many producers of alternative materials in Colombia. So that is the challenge at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Matthias?
Yeah, and then I think you just mentioned a good point, because if it takes half a year to make a certificate, and then on one hand, you are a startup, half a year is a lot that you need to somehow finance. And then in combination, what Catherine just said, that the regulations are still not in place, or they still gonna change. This, of course, hinders investments, because the investors, they're gonna wait until there is regulatory clarity, for example, before they're gonna invest. So especially as an innovator in this space, you either need to have a high initial investment to be able to take this long step until regulations adjust, until you have your certification. So I really like the point that Nita said, that for startups in that area, I think certification should be either subsidized or accelerated. And then in the meantime, the collaboration between the regulators, who often don't know what's happening actually on the market, or where you have regulations that stem from, we're focusing only on products that we've been using 20 years ago now need to be adjusted. So there is still like a long way to go, and someone has to finance that. And that's, I think, that's the biggest challenge, especially on a global scale, is to find models that work for financing like this phase that we are in now, which is kind of this chicken and egg problem. Like first,
Yeah.
the market first, or do we have the solutions first?
Okay,
Yeah.
Catherine, direct response to that?
Yeah, I wanted just to add something that is, first, because the regulation is so broad and not clear, there is like an opening for a lot of options that could comply with those standards that I just mentioned, but they're actually creating a bigger problem of microplastics. And that is what is going to happen here in the next couple of months. And second, that at the moment, to be able to analyze your product in biodegradability or compostability is something around $10,000 per product. So for a startup, if you have several products or several formulations, the cost could be quite high, and the time, as Gary mentioned as well.
Okay, we're close to the end already, but I saw two questions in the chat on the price. So one was from Samuel from Cameroon, is about the cost of your products and if they would be affordable to developing countries. And the second, the effect, what could be the downstream effect of prices of plastic if the fossil fuel subsidies are reduced, for example, by 9% or something like that. So that would be my final question from the chat. Anyone willing to give you a view on that? So affordability, that what was already mentioned several times, and let's say then also the effect of reducing subsidies. Vinny, please.
Yeah, on the question from Cameroon, what I can suggest is that we have the technology, we have the machinery. If they are ready to give their agriculture waste, we can convert it at their source. We can do that, any agriculture waste. So you can manufacture it and the source itself. Instead of importing from India or anywhere else, you can do it in your own country. That is possible.
Right.
On the second part regarding the, I think the reduction of subsidies to plastic, definitely it is a welcome. If that can be done, then we are on a level playing field.
Okay, so it's 1:30 in Europe. It's 5 o'clock in India. I don't know what time it is in Colombia at the moment, I have to admit.
30 AM.
Okay, well, still early. So yeah, we are at the end of the session. Thank you very much to all the speakers. Perhaps to announce that, of course, we were not able to answer all the questions, and we were not able to answer to let's say shed light on all the different aspects of this very complex question of alternative plastic materials. We were not looking deeper into the value chain things about also the question of collection, for example, if you're more on the recycling side. Gary, we didn't talk about your solid products, for example. So I think there are lots of still open questions. And Vivek, I think it's fair to say we already announced that we were thinking about having a series of these webinars also, and then more specific aspects to look into. So that's the plan. We are going to give you an announcement as the participants and everyone who has registered on future webinars and on the next webinars, where we now, also given what we heard in this discussion, looking into the different aspects and decide on the topics that we will follow up in the next rounds. Vivek, anything to add on your side?
Nothing. Absolutely. It was really a fantastic session because a lot of topics that we really encounter working with the startups were covered today. And I think it was really good for all the startups to share the insights and also many aspects with regard to policy, with regard to certifications were covered. So it's amazing that all these points were covered during today's session. And we would like to continue this engagement forward, as Dr. Alex has already mentioned. And maybe Rachna, if you would like to add anything or... Yes.
We'll just take 1 minute to just also add to what Vivek was just saying. So, in fact, yesterday there was a very large initiation by the Ministry of Environment to actually look at jobs and skills in the space of circular economy. They've started this entire engagement. And I think, look, and there is a discussion of how each and every state government could actually promote the startup ecosystem in their states and cities. And of course, plastics is a priority topics of all the other 11. Plastics is one of the other areas. So yeah, I think I see that also progressing in a lot of direction, which people also reflected, the challenges that they see in that setup of how do you actually bring scale to. So yeah, I think it was quite interesting, and a lot of open challenges still. But yeah, thanks for your inputs.
Okay, with that, we conclude. Thank you very much for participating. Thank you very much again to all the speakers for giving your insight. I hope we are also able to inspire some of the people out there to think about entrepreneurship in that area. That would, of course, be also a very good effect. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to see many of you again in one of the next webinars. Thank you very much. And bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.